Brad Pitt. He's literally a woman abuser and a child abuser. A lot of people that I tell this story to, they have no idea. His PR team did an amazing job of covering it up.
Women are treated so much more harshly. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, she was definitely judged by the court of public opinion.
Oh, absolutely. That
so
should
much
not have
worse
been
than he was.
televised.
What really pisses me off is there is never any room for redemption for women, and whatever women are doing is on a ridiculous tiny scale comparatively.
Basically, he was asleep on his neighbour's couch, got completely high and went to sleep on his neighbour's couch.
I do that all the time.
But that's between you and your neighbour's couch.
Today's Fck It Files needs to come with a trigger warning because we're talking about some really heavy things like sexual assault, men's violence against women, sexual violence, and lots of other terrible things actually. So if this one's not for you, just skip it.
Welcome to the Fck It Files, my friends. We'll have a little chat about what's fucking women off and giving them the ick this week. So there's actually a carousel that's been doing the rounds on Instagram, and it's actually researched by a guy named Ian Lightfoot. I thought it was really interesting what this highlights. It's kind of a matter of men's crimes versus women's crimes. Mm-hmm. Hint, they're not actually crimes. And the disparity of the outcomes between both. So here's kind of what we've got just to show you the comparison. Mark Wahlberg committed racially motivated hate crimes, one so severe that a man lost his eye. But he's worth... Yeah, I know. I didn't know this either.
What did he do?
He assaulted a Vietnamese man.
That's
very
extraordinary.
badly.
I've never heard this before.
Yeah, I know. This was a while ago, which actually is even more interesting because he did it kind of before his career took off. I suppose back then, cancel culture wasn't a thing. I think people were able to get away with a lot more. But I wonder if a young man kind of committing those kind of crimes now would have then had the success that followed him. He's now worth $400 million, which is crazy.
Is that mainly the burgers?
I
was wondering if it's the
definitely
burgers.
Not F45, so it has to be the burgers.
Getting up at 2:00 in the morning and praying a lot.
And that too.
Mm.
Then you've got, Anthony Kiedis, he actually had a relationship with a 14-year-old when he was 23, and he doesn't hide this. He actually wrote about it in his autobiography. He's obviously wildly successful. Michael Fassbender, so he allegedly dragged his partner alongside a moving car, broke her nose, and left her with a ruptured ovarian cyst. Yet he's got 2 Oscar nominations and is currently starring in a prestigious Apple TV series. And then it kind of contrasts that with women. So you've got Janet Jackson, who had a costume malfunction, i.e. Justin Timberlake ripped off the costume section of her breast during the Super Bowl. She got absolutely blasted for that. She was banned from radio. He was fine, got out scot-free. The Dixie Chicks, so they criticized Bush and the Iraq War. Their music was pulled nationwide. People were burning their CDs. Sinead O'Connor, we've spoken about this before, tore up a picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live to protest the child abuse that was happening.
And the only crime she committed was knowing that before her
everyone
time.
else. Exactly. Yeah. And now it's widely known that this is something that's actually happened. Monica Lewinsky had an affair with the president. She was only 22.
Yeah.
Yet he's giving, a keynote at the Democratic National Convention. So
can we take a pause? Because that's just... Some of those are so stunningly awful, the things that we're talking about.
But there's more than that,
there's
though, right?
More.
Isn't there Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt. So Vogue, I actually made a comment the other day on Vogue magazine's post. Constantly, at least once every couple of weeks, are posting about Brad Pitt. And in the comments, people are saying, why are you still profiling this man? Like, he's literally a woman abuser and a child abuser. A lot of people that I tell this story to, they have no idea. His PR team did an amazing job of covering it up.
Yeah, see, I thought with him, the version of the story I'm familiar with is where he was seen and reported.
On the plane.
Like on the plane.
Yeah.
Right? And as a minimum, I felt like that was very familiar. I think it's really interesting, though, because there's often the chance, particularly for men, of the redemption story. And
it's always the redemption story.
I think the king of that is Robert Downey Jr., right? But the difference is, He had drug addiction, and
that was harm to himself.
Right, and it's something where you can go, I'm harming myself. It's also been treated, and completely appropriately, in my opinion, as a medical issue, which, you know, he has sought treatment for and he's helped. But there's no
Brad Pitt
conversation
has done this
around.
too. Brad Pitt has pretty much weaponized, I think, alcohol abuse.
Right, but my point was, that's really public, and that's damage he's doing to himself. But that was completely public and everyone's talking about it. How are we not talking about things that are much more dangerous and are harm to other people?
Robert Downey Jr. was in the headlines weekly when he was going through that.
Yeah.
Why isn't Brad Pitt in the
And he got arrested. Robert Downey Jr., my memory of it is, got arrested. One of the sort of lowest moments was basically he was asleep on his neighbour's couch, got completely high and went to sleep on his neighbour's couch.
I do that all the time.
But that's between you and your neighbours, Carl. But I mean, also, again, like, I don't know the specifics of it, but the broad generalities of that story is, you know, yes, that's incredibly difficult for the people around you, but it's not violence, it's not aggression. These other stories you're talking about are very open incidents of aggression and violence and harm to other people.
But we're doing this here all the time. We've got this in Australia. We have Ben Cousins, who's like a convicted DV offender. And he was then put on a Channel 7 TV show, you know, redeemed himself, and now he then became a host. And at the same time, there was a Channel 7 journalist who was basically not committing a crime, but pretty much, I think it was borderline, a little bit of an ethics breach or so in terms of a news story that she did. She got walked, and in the same week, they put on Ben Cousins.
Well, exactly. I mean, you only have to look at Antoinette Lattouf to see how frequently that happens, 100%. Right?
Do you think, though, that there is room for redemption if the man actively tries to make a change, goes to therapy, becomes an advocate? Is there any world where you think that redemption can be a thing and can
Charlie
be
Sheen,
successful?
Who's done a pretty interesting documentary around it as well. And I think even his ex-wife is in the, Denise Richards is in there, and it's all really heartbreaking. But again, there's like addiction at play. But I feel like there should always be room for redemption. What really pisses me off is there is never any room for redemption for women, and whatever women are doing is on a ridiculous tiny scale comparatively.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
I mean, exactly. And that also the redemption piece, that wasn't my point around it, right? My point around it is, like, there is such a narrow window to have these conversations about what's okay and what isn't okay for men and women. And women are treated so much more harshly. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and thank you, on-air producer Tash, for reminding us of that. What a world we live in also, that we're having this conversation and we were able to forget something that horrific. They literally sat in court talking about, and I think neither of them came out of that scot-free. I think it's worth saying that. However, she was definitely judged by the court of public opinion.
Oh, absolutely. That
so
should
much
not have
worse
been
than he was.
televised.
So awful.
The level of minutiae to, like, what she was wearing and how swollen her eyes were from crying, and, like, fucking leave her alone. That, you know, he's in there and you're having a conversation about what he has or hasn't done in the terms of domestic violence towards his partner. Meanwhile, the internet's having a conversation about her outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of talk about how performative she was while she took the stand in terms of the crying, and then that was all fake. But you look at him and you could equally say that he was performative on.
And of course they were, because they're both actors.
Exactly.
It's literally their fucking job.
They know how to do this. They know how to do this.
But I also, that's a really old, a very old trope, right? And Jazz, to your point about the narrowness of how females are allowed to behave in any given circumstance. In a terribly emotional situation, women are either pathetic and ridiculous and crying too much, or if they don't cry, they're guilty, or there's nothing wrong with them, or like they're not emotive enough, they're not female enough.
Part of this post also looked at like Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton from back in the early noughties, and how they got torn to shreds by the paparazzi every time they went out and got drunk, for example. And it's like, okay, you're actually giving them worse for just going out, having a good time and getting drunk than you're giving these men that have actually caused physical harm to people. And I wonder if part of it is that double deviance that we were talking about, when, you know, women who do the same crimes as men get actually punished harsher because they're being punished for not sticking within their gender norms and the crime itself. It kind of could potentially apply to this too, where you see women going out having a good time, getting white girl wasted. I mean, why is white girl wasted actually even a term?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I said, why is cougars a term and not dead bots going to pubs, right?
It absolutely is. But I think what's so interesting in terms of resolution, and particularly the work that Ian Lightfoot does that you're talking about, is the crimes that he's talking about that the men have committed are actual crimes, as in they are illegal.
Literally.
And the things that women are being counselled for are getting pissed, or like in Sinead O'Connor's case, calling out something that definitely is happening.
Yep.
It's so interesting. I think you're right in that double jeopardy thing does exist, but this isn't even apples and apples.
Yeah, exactly. It's crime versus no crime.
I will die on this hill. We've got the Epstein files, and the only person that's in jail is a woman.
Exactly.
Yeah, and anytime you mention that, the conversation suddenly becomes, oh, right, you don't think she should, be in jail. Of course she should be in jail, but so should everyone else.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not saying that she doesn't belong there. I'm just saying, why aren't we looking at the men
exactly
involved in
and
any of this,
that's a prime example, because she's done something that's involved sex trafficking young children. She's a woman, so the expectation is that a woman would never do that. So statistically, her doing that versus a man doing that, she's likely to get
it's
a harsher punishment.
Worse. Yeah, 100%.
Because she's a woman. And then you've got the recent trial that's happened in the UK. So there were the 3 teenage boys that have been convicted.
This story makes me ill.
Yeah, of raping 2 girls, separate attacks, and they filmed it. And they were convicted.
Yeah.
They were convicted.
It's on camera.
They did it.
And they shared it.
But the judge handed them non-custodial sentences, citing a desire not to criminalize them. This is actually really sad. So one of the victims said that the judge almost made it seem as if what the boys did was not okay, but it was okay in the eyes of the law because they were still children. She asked, what was the point of putting me through that? So these poor girls had to go through that trial, reliving it, only to have that sentence.
And also, and it pretty much said your future doesn't matter, right? Like his future, their future matters, but yours
And it's exactly
doesn't.
the same conversation that's been happening. I remember Chanel, whose surname I forget, but with Brock Turner.
Yeah.
The judge literally said, he has this really bright future in swimming.
And my God, yes.
And she apparently was just some chick who was allegedly raped behind a dumpster. And that's fine, because he's going to be a really good swimmer when he's older, so we can't send him to jail.
It's just collateral damage.
We cannot, right? I mean,
that's 10, 15 years ago. And I think, of course, these things were going on before then. We just name them now.
I suppose the positive thing with this UK case is the public outcry has been so vast and so loud that they're actually relooking at the case now and the sentence.
And they fucking
should.
And they should. But I feel just in general, nothing has changed or shifted culturally in the last decade. I feel it's actually gone worse.
I don't know. In this case, I think what's really interesting about that is, from a legislative perspective, nothing's changed. But from a cultural and social perspective, something really has changed, because the people of Hampshire said, no, fuck that, that's not good enough. And the law has to catch up. And the way judgments are being handed down has to catch up.
Maybe that's UK specific.
Maybe
that's a particular, the UK seems to be really angry on many levels at the moment.
Certainly.
Must be something else going on, because I am not sure whether this would be, meanwhile, where we have what's going on in the US at the moment with, the criminalization of abortion, etc., and what the sentiment is towards women.
Well, and I mean,
there.
even here, look,
oh God,
I've said it, and I said it because I'm looking for hope and I'm looking for optimism.
That makes us very different, doesn't it? You're always like, the glass is half full, and I'm like, it's so fucking
She's
empty.
like, I'm German.
I'm German.
I wouldn't say that I'm always the glass is half full, but I would say that I look for the context or the nuance in it. In this case, the UK certainly absolutely a shit show. There's no argument around that. But this particular case does offer some hope, I think. But it, in the context of, right. And hopefully it will be a legal precedent, which makes it significant.
If Jen, as per usual, is trying to find some optimism here, and I'm really cynical about it, is there anything that you can tell us where you see some momentum on balancing the scales here a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can understand both arguments, but I think when it all comes down to it, it's really looking at how we balance the scales back and unlearn those biases and internalized misogyny even that we've kind of learned growing up. I think there's a lot of work to do, but clearly we all have the power. I mean, I was one of the people commenting on the Vogue post. There were a few other comments about why are you profiling Brad Pitt. Imagine if there were thousands of comments, maybe they would actually listen. You can also go and call your MP and write to them about things, but also it's this power in numbers, right? We have to speak up. And much like they did in the UK, people spoke up and people listened and started to really question, okay, what decisions are we making?
And that's why we're doing this podcast.
Exactly.
Certainly is.
And this was the Fuck It Files, my friends, shedding light on what's fucking women off all over the world.
Hey loves, good news is you can submit your own Fuck It List items. Just drop them in the comments on our socials or email us at hello@fuckitlist.com.au. If they're particularly spicy, we'll even keep them anonymous for you.